Welcome back to Primility Primer, our morning reminder of the power of balancing pride and humility as we go about our daily lives. This is episode 19 of Primility Primer, and I am your host, Jared Morris. Very excited to be talking to you all either here live on a Friday morning or who knows when on the podcast or on the YouTube video recording somewhere down the line. And I do want to mention before I jump into today's topic that one of the big goals in doing this series is to get feedback from you all, to make this more of a conversation than just me stating stuff and declaring stuff and it ending there. And so I really encourage you, whether it's on Twitter at Jared Morris or through email, jared@primility.com, or on the blog post page of any of these episodes, like today's is primility.com/show/019. Come provide your thoughts, come provide your comments, your agreements, your disagreements, your ideas, your stories, anything. I really want that to be a part of this Primility experience. I want it to be a shared experience, not just always me. I'm happy to lead the discussion, but I really want it to be a discussion, be collaborative with you, because that's the way that it will truly be meaningful. And if you've been following this site for a while, you know that I've gone through a lot of taglines, and I'm constantly thinking of better taglines, better quick ways to tell people what Primility is, because people will ask me a lot of times, what is Primility? And I know really well what it is. I understand it, but it's not always easy for me to explain. So if you look over my left shoulder, actually my right shoulder, right over there, you'll see Heather got that for me. And that has one of the early Primility taglines on it: achieve anything you love and are capable of by balancing pride and humility, which is great and all, but not a perfect tagline. And so I've continued to try and hone it in, right? Self-awareness for self-determination, kind of quicker, a little bit more to the point. And I was thinking about this last night, actually, because I thought, what Primility really is a framework for making better decisions, ultimately, because that's kind of how we view things. We look at a decision that we have to make or a decision that we've been making that perhaps we're dissatisfied with. We really try to analyze if it's perhaps our pride or our humility that is leading us down a road that we don't want to be going down. And then we try and pull it back into balance. And so actually, I wrote that on the series page. I wrote that Primility is a framework for making our next decision better, which I think is interesting. But then I immediately thought, well, isn't it more about making our next action better? Because it's not, yes, the decision will lead to the action, but it's much more about the action, what we actually do, than simply the mechanics of what is going on up here. Which led me to thinking about the concept of instincts, because I think ultimately what we're really trying to do, if I was trying to really explain how I've used Primility to myself, how I want it to continue impacting my own life, and how I'd love for it to impact yours, it's that I want it to make our instincts better. Because the great part about instincts is they become ingrained. We don't have to think about them. So instead of stepping back and saying, oh, okay, is my pride morphing into conceit here? Is my humility drifting into meekness? And really analyzing it, we start to internalize it and do it naturally. And I think that's really the sweet spot. And it's hard to get there. And I feel like I've gotten there in some respects. I don't feel like I'm there in other respects. And so I really think the big idea here is about instincts. So what are the differences between decisions and instincts? I think it's important. And let's just start with the definitions of the two. So an instinct is an innate, typically fixed pattern of behavior in animals in response to certain stimuli, right? Like birds have an instinct to build nests. A more appropriate definition for our purposes is a natural or intuitive way of acting or thinking, with synonyms being inclination, urge, drive, compulsion, and need. The definition of decision is a conclusion or resolution reached after consideration. I'll make my decision on my own. The act or process of deciding something or of resolving a question. Synonyms: resolution, conclusion, settlement, commitment, resolve, determination. So the big difference there is obviously with a decision, it's something that we've considered, that we've thought about, that we've stepped outside of the moment to decide what we are going to do next. Whereas an instinct is natural. We're in the moment and we just act based on our instincts. A lot of times when people talk about athletes, like my dad, who's a scout in the NFL, talks about athletes, you talk about instincts. And it's the ability to just read and react. And if you constantly have to step back and really decide on it and ponder it in an activity as fast as sports, you're going to lose out. And sometimes that's the case in life too, right? There are a lot of times when we can sit back and decide and ponder and ruminate. And when we do have that opportunity, we should. And I think that's a great time for where Primility can really be that framework for driving a more positive next action. But the big idea is to get to where it is intuitive, where it is an instinct, so we're just acting on it. And I'll give you an example. I feel like I've struggled a lot with accepting compliments. And I think accepting compliments is a big topic for Primility. I think it's something that there really needs to be a balance of to accept the compliment. Because on the one hand, you've got to have enough pride in yourself to believe you're worthy of the compliment, to accept it graciously, to internalize it. But then also, of course, enough humility to not think that it's just because of you that you're great. To, number one, show appreciation for the compliment, because this person doesn't have to be complimenting you. But then also, I think, find a way to shine a light on someone else. Pass the light around, right? So this light is shined on you. You take it, you appreciate it, and then you turn that right back around on someone else, whether it's the person giving you the compliment, if they're deserving, or someone else who's helped you. And I think for me personally, for a long time, I've been much better at almost like a hot potato, quickly taking it and then shining the light and turning it elsewhere, instead of actually accepting the compliment. Because again, we talk about this with gratitude. We talked about it yesterday on Thank You Thursday. When someone does something nice for you, we want to show them that we appreciate that. We want to reward them for that action so that they are encouraged to do it more, right? And so for me, I feel like it's almost like I feel nervous when I get a compliment, or I feel like if it lingers too long, I'll be outed as a fraud, that I don't really deserve it. I'm not saying these are warranted. I hope they're not warranted, but this is how I feel a lot of times. So it's immediately either deflecting the compliment or putting it on someone else, or not really accepting it, instead of saying, hey, thank you. I really appreciate you saying that. I really worked hard on this. I did this, that, or the other. So that means a lot to me. And I'll tell you what, so-and-so really helped me out too. And I couldn't have done it without them. And so once I realized this is the self-awareness part of Primility. I realized I was doing this. And so in moments when I would be complimented, I would have it in my head. I knew I wanted to make a better decision about how to respond to it. And so even though it was quick, I really tried to ponder, okay, let me say what I want to say in this situation. Don't deflect it right away. Let me say what I want to say. Over time, having done that, right, thanks to having a wristband right here that reminds me in those moments to make a better decision, it's become more instinctive, to where now I feel like I do it more naturally. I don't have to step outside of myself for those few split seconds or whatever it takes to decide. It's much more natural. And so I do believe that Primility is a framework for making better decisions. And I think ultimately those better decisions and that framework, internalizing it in lots of different areas of our lives, is what will lead Primility to helping us have better instincts. And obviously when we have better instincts, it's more natural. We're better in more moments at handling things the way we want to, moving forward, progressing in a positive direction. So we're coming up on already 8 minutes of this episode. I like to keep them short. I feel like there's a lot of meat on the bone with this topic. So we will continue talking about this. And again, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Tweet me, send me an email, go to the show notes, primility.com/show/019, and give me your thoughts on this, because I'd love to hear them. And give me your thoughts on this as a tagline. Is that a good way for you to explain what Primility is and why you watch this crazy guy at 6:30 Central or listen to his daily podcast? And I'm not saying you do daily. If you do, thank you. I really appreciate it. Even if you only listen to one episode every now and then, thank you. And frankly, if this is the first time you've ever heard this show or seen this show, thank you. Every single time someone listens, every time we can spread this idea to someone else, it makes me feel good, because it's meant a lot to my life. And that's the reason why I'm doing this, is because I hope in some small way it can mean something positive to your life as well. All right, everybody. This is Friday, so we won't be back with another episode until Monday morning. But Monday morning, we will be here ready to go. And I will recommend, if you go to primility.com/join, you can get on the email list. You will get our one thing email on Monday morning, a 250 words or less essay about some topic, some big idea to get your Monday morning started off right. And then on Friday, a few hours from now, actually, we send out our weekly digest. So if you don't want to keep up with a daily show, every single episode, get the digest, see a summary of each episode, and see which ones that you want to tune into later on. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for watching this episode. Stay cognizant of your pride and humility, and use it to make your next decision a better one. Talk to you on Monday. Wrist bump.